Dillon Gabriel came into the season with the benefit of the doubt, a safe option, a poised decision-maker. But after a string of stalled drives and a demoralizing game against the Steelers, that confidence is crumbling. The hype hasn't matched reality, and each ineffective series only sharpens the spotlight on Shedeur Sanders. What was once a clear depth chart now feels like a question of who gives the team a chance to win.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
Today, Gabriel's early season safety net has disappeared. Every snap he takes while Sanders sits sidelines a coach's choice that's harder to defend. In a league where results speak louder than reputations, Stefanski is running out of reasons to delay the inevitable. The fan base, the media, and now the players are all asking the same thing. What's left to lose by making the switch? Tony Grossi had his doubts. He aired them publicly, bluntly, and repeatedly. Shedeur Sanders wasn't ready. He was reckless. He didn't have the poise. He wasn't cut out to lead an NFL offense, at least not this one. That was the line. That was the story. But now, that story's dead. Because after Dillon Gabriel's meltdown against the Steelers, a performance so flat it had even neutral fans wincing, everything changed. Not slowly, not subtly, immediately. The same critics who once dismissed Shedeur Sanders are now singing his praises, Grossi included. And the about face hasn't gone unnoticed. It's not just a media reversal. It's a full-blown narrative collapse. When Gabriel took the field against Pittsburgh, the expectations weren't high. But they were still there. After all, he was Stefanski's pick. The safe choice. The guy who was supposed to be steady, reliable, manageable. But what happened instead was a collapse under pressure. Drive after drive of nothing. No rhythm. No spark. Just one predictable possession after another until the game was out of reach and the boos got louder. It wasn't just bad football. It was a message. And the message was this: the Browns can't afford to keep pretending this is working. That game triggered a shift, not just among the fans, but within the building. You could feel it in the way players talked postgame. You could read it between the lines. And then Myles Garrett made it plain. He voiced what others were probably still whispering. This isn't working. The offense is holding them back. And the decision to keep starting Gabriel? That's not sitting right. Garrett didn't say Shedeur's name. He didn't have to. The fact that a defensive captain is publicly challenging coaching decisions around the offense tells you everything you need to know. The patience is gone. This wasn't supposed to happen. The quarterback plan for Cleveland was designed to be safe. Controlled. Predictable. Gabriel wouldn't wow anyone, but he wouldn't implode. He'd get the job done while the defense held the line. Except he has imploded. And now the only thing predictable is another lifeless showing from an offense completely disconnected from the energy and urgency of the rest of the team. It's not just the turnovers. It's not just the bad decisions. It's the complete lack of command. No tempo. No leadership. No evidence that Gabriel has any control over the huddle, the field, or the team's trajectory. And as for Stefanski, he's backed himself into a corner. Because week after week, he's stuck with Gabriel. Double down. Even as the offense stalled. Even as losses piled up. Even as Sanders stood on the sideline with a headset and a clipboard, watching the season slip away without getting a shot. That decision is no longer defensible. When your starter is floundering, when the locker room is pushing back, and when respected figures in the media are reversing their takes, something has to give. Even Rex Ryan has changed his tone. He's no stranger to strong opinions, but now he's one of many calling for Sanders to start. The logic is simple. The current plan isn't working. The only real variable left to try is Sanders. And let's be clear, this isn't a why not situation. This is a how much longer can you ignore the obvious situation. There's no mystery about why Grossi apologized. He saw what everyone saw. Gabriel's performance wasn't just poor, it was uninspired. The kind of effort that drains a team's belief. And in the NFL, when you lose the locker room's belief in your quarterback, The rest unravels quickly. Grossi was one of Sanders' most vocal doubters. He questioned his focus, his decision-making, and his ability to transition from college hype to NFL discipline. And after an early game where Sanders threw multiple picks, Grossi and others ran with it. But what they missed, what they really underestimated, was how Sanders would respond. He didn't lash out. He didn't throw shade. He didn't feed the media machine that was ready to chew him up. He just worked. He sat. He watched. He waited. And through it all, he stayed focused. He didn't need to post motivational quotes or argue about his place. He let Gabriel's place speak for itself. Now, that silence speaks louder than ever. Because as Gabriel flounders, Sanders stands ready. That readiness is what's shifting the narrative. The idea that he's still an unknown is no longer a liability. It's the point. He represents the one move Cleveland hasn't made. The one answer the fans still believe might work. And let's not ignore the fans here. This isn't just about insiders flipping their takes. This is about a fan base that's been watching years of false starts, wasted potential, and quarterback disasters. When they start chanting for Sanders, it's not a trend. It's a reckoning. They've seen enough to know when something's broken. And what they're seeing right now, it's broken. Every drive that ends in a punt. Every red zone stall out. Every third down that ends with Gabriel looking confused or hurried or overwhelmed. It all reinforces the same idea. He's not the guy. Not anymore. And if Stefanski doesn't act soon, he won't just be failing to fix the problem. He'll become the problem. Because at a certain point, loyalty to a failing strategy becomes incompetence. This team has talent. The defense is elite. The locker room is full of veterans who've been through enough to know when something's holding them back. They're telling you. The media is telling you. Now the question is whether the coaching staff will finally listen. Shedeur Sanders may not be a guaranteed success, but he doesn't need to be. He just needs to be something different. A jolt. A change in energy. A player who hasn't been worn down by the expectations and disappointment that now follow Gabriel onto the field. And maybe if he starts, it's rocky. Maybe he makes mistakes. But at least the Browns would know they tried. Right now, they're not trying anything. They're sticking with a plan that's failing in plain sight and hoping it magically turns around. That's not coaching. That's denial. Tony Grossi figured it out. Rex Ryan figured it out. Myles Garrett sees it. The fans feel it every Sunday. Now, all that's left is for the Browns to do something. Give Sanders the reins. See what you've got. Because if you don't, and this season continues to spiral, the regret won't be about Gabriel. It'll be about the fact that you had another option and didn't even give him a shot. And that's the kind of mistake that follows a coach long after the season ends. So what do you think? Should the Browns hand the keys to Shedeur Sanders before it's too late? Or has Stefanski already waited too long to turn this around? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Hit that like button if you're over the Dillon Gabriel experiment. And subscribe for more breakdowns of the stories that keep Cleveland fans watching, even when the wins don't come easy. The Browns are at the edge of a decision that could define not just their season, but their direction as a franchise. And no, that's not dramatic. That's where we're at. It's no longer about whether Shedeur Sanders is ready. The debate has moved past that. It's now about what message the Browns are sending by not playing him. Because when a quarterback is visibly struggling, when fans are fed up, when your star defensive player is speaking out, and your own coaching decisions are being questioned from the top down, not making a change says everything. It says you're more committed to being right than to winning. It says you're willing to ride a sinking ship because you built it. And right now, that's the vibe coming from Kevin Stefanski. Every time he sticks with Dillon Gabriel, it doesn't come across as loyalty. It comes across as pride. It looks like a head coach who can't admit he might have backed the wrong guy. And week after week, the cost of that pride keeps rising. The game against the Steelers? That was a turning point. Not just because Gabriel played poorly, again, but because it stripped away every last excuse. There were no blown coverages to blame. No dropped passes to lean on. This was just flat-out failure at the quarterback position. No spark. No adjustments. Just another afternoon of watching the offense stall while the defense wore itself out trying to keep the score respectable. And in the aftermath, Stefanski had nothing. Just the same recycled postgame lines. We have to execute better. We believe in our guys. It's a process. People are done with the process. It's not processing. And that's where Shedeur Sanders comes back into the conversation. Because while Gabriel has gone from underwhelming to unsalvageable, Sanders hasn't said a word. He hasn't pushed back. He hasn't stirred up drama. And yet, his name is everywhere. The fans are chanting it. The media is writing about it. And the locker room, while not directly endorsing him, is clearly restless with the status quo. Myles Garrett's public frustration wasn't about one bad play. It was about the direction of the team, or lack thereof. You know how rare it is for a defensive captain to question offensive decisions? That doesn't happen unless things are deeply broken. Garrett isn't being emotional. He's being practical. He knows what a wasted season looks like. He's seen it, lived it, and he's watching it unfold again. Only this time, it's preventable. That's the real tragedy in all of this. The solution is right there. Sanders may not be the perfect option, but he's the only one with any momentum behind him. Not from the media hype machine. From the team. From the energy. From the fans. From everyone who's been watching week after week, waiting for Stefanski to finally make the move that's so obvious it's almost painful. And still nothing. It's frustrating because you can feel it building. The pressure. The tension. The sense that the next bad game isn't just a loss, it's a collapse. The point where the season goes from salvageable to lost. And all because of one decision that keeps being pushed off like it'll magically get easier. It won't. In fact, the longer they wait, the harder it becomes. Because when Sanders does finally start, and he will, the microscope is going to be enormous. The expectations will be massive. And the question Stefanski will have to answer is, why did this take so long? Because if Sanders goes out there and plays well, that's it. That's the story. The entire organization will have to reckon with the reality that their stubbornness cost them time, games, maybe even a shot at the playoffs. And that doesn't get swept under the rug. That sticks. With the fans. With the media. With ownership. And what if Sanders struggles? That's fine too. At least then, you know. At least then you've given yourself a chance to evaluate, to grow, to pivot. But sticking with Gabriel isn't evaluation. It's stagnation. We already know what he brings to the table. And right now, that table's empty. There's also this ongoing disconnect between what the team says and what it does. Stefanski and the front office keep talking about building for the future, investing in young talent, playing smart, adaptive football. So why are they ignoring the young quarterback who has the support of the room, the confidence of the fans, and the upside that Gabriel clearly lacks? This isn't just about trying something new. This is about living up to what they keep preaching. Because all the next man up talk means nothing if the next man up never gets called. And fans see that. That's why they're angry. They're not mad because Gabriel had one bad game. They're mad because he's had several, and there's still no accountability, no urgency, no plan B. That's not a bad week. That's bad leadership. And honestly, this isn't even a complicated decision anymore. The path forward is clear. The only thing in the way is ego. And if Stefanski can't move past that, then it's not just Gabriel who needs to be replaced. This team has a defense that can win games. They have playmakers on offense waiting for someone who can get the ball out cleanly. They have momentum begging to be unleashed. All they need is a quarterback who can unlock it. At this point, that quarterback isn't Dillon Gabriel. It might be Shedeur Sanders. And if it's not, fine. You regroup. You retool. You build around what you learn. But this middle ground, this paralyzed, frightened hesitation to act, is killing the team. Quietly, week by week. And Grossi's apology? That was just the latest sign that the tide has turned. He was one of the loudest voices warning against Sanders. Now, he's one of the most vocal advocates. That's not a small shift. That's the media realigning itself with reality. And when guys like Grossi and Rex Ryan start flipping, that tells you it's not just talk. It's a response to something deeper, something undeniable. Shedeur Sanders hasn't proven he's the savior of the Browns. But Dillon Gabriel has proven he isn't. That should be enough. The game has changed. The pressure has shifted. And the longer the Browns ignore it, the worse this gets. Not just in terms of wins and losses, but in trust, in culture, in credibility. And once you lose that, it's hard to get back. So go ahead, Stefanski. Make the move. Start Sanders. Not because it's safe, not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. You don't get many chances to reset a season. This is one. And if you don't take it, don't be surprised when the people who were once defending you start asking why you didn't listen. It's getting harder to ignore the noise. Because this isn't just social media chatter anymore. It's not just fans yelling into the void or podcast hosts looking for clicks. This has become the conversation surrounding the Cleveland Browns. Front page stuff. Every national panel, every local beat, every locker room whisper. It's all circling around the same uncomfortable truth. Why hasn't Shedeur Sanders started yet? Not should he start. That debate is done. The only people clinging to Dillon Gabriel as the answer are either blind to what's happening on the field or too committed to their preseason takes to back out gracefully. The rest of the league sees it. The fans definitely see it. And now more and more voices from inside the Browns' own ecosystem are starting to speak out. Even carefully. Even without naming names. It started with Myles Garrett. And when he speaks, it matters. He's not some role player trying to get attention. He's the soul of this team's defense, and arguably the most respected figure in the building. When he throws subtle shade at the offensive direction, at the coaching, at the quarterback decisions, you better believe it's calculated. And it wasn't just one comment. It was the tone, the subtext, the timing. After yet another game where the defense held it down and the offense offered nothing in return, Garrett finally said what the rest of us were thinking. This isn't sustainable. The defense can't carry a quarterback who's actively hurting the team. You could almost feel the shift happen in real time. The moment Garrett's quotes hit social media, the floodgates opened. Analysts started connecting the dots. Fans turned up the volume. Former players chimed in. And then came the pivot from Tony Grossi, one of Sanders' harshest critics. He didn't issue a formal apology. He didn't sit down for a mea culpa. But the change in tone was loud. Suddenly, Grossi was talking about Sanders' maturity, his focus, his potential. The same guy who once questioned whether Shedeur had the mental game to survive in the NFL was now saying the team should hand him the keys. That's not just a narrative shift. That's a media reset. And you only get that kind of reversal when the old story is no longer believable. When defending the status quo becomes more embarrassing than admitting you were wrong. That's where we're at. No one can keep pretending Dillon Gabriel is the answer. Not after the Steelers game. Not after multiple weeks of underperformance. Not after failed drives, missed reads, and sideline body language that looks like even he knows this isn't working. The tape doesn't lie. The offense is stuck. It's not creative. It's not confident. It's not competitive. And no matter how many times Stefanski says we trust our guy, the numbers and the eyes say otherwise. And every week that goes by without a quarterback change, the pressure on Stefanski doubles. It's not just that Gabriel is struggling. It's that his struggles are costing the Browns. Wasted defensive efforts. Wasted field position. Wasted time. The team isn't just losing games. It's losing belief. And you can't quantify that on a stat sheet, but you can see it. In the way players walk off the field. In the silence after another failed third down. In the interviews where the answers get shorter and the tone gets colder. That's the risk the Browns are taking right now, letting this fester. Because once a locker room fully checks out on a quarterback, that's almost impossible to repair. But you know what can bring that locker room back to life? A change. A spark. A quarterback who hasn't been part of a losing streak. A guy who's been in the background, doing everything right. Waiting for his chance without creating drama. That's Sanders. And whether you loved him coming out of college or doubted his NFL transition, you can't deny the way he's handled this situation. Calm, professional, focused, no outbursts, no leaks, no cryptic interviews or quotes, just silence and preparation. That says something. Because in a league where quarterbacks often come in with ego and entitlement, Sanders has played the long game. He hasn't tried to win the locker room through headlines. He's earning it through patience, through not throwing teammates under the bus, through just being ready. And now, the team needs that energy. They need something different. Right now, the Browns feel stuck in a loop. Same play calls, same results, same press conferences. And the only thing that breaks that loop is a new leader under center. Starting Sanders doesn't guarantee wins, but not starting him pretty much guarantees more of the same. And Stefanski? He's out of time. This isn't just about who the quarterback is. This is about control, leadership, direction. Every coach hits a moment like this, where the team is looking to see if he can recognize when something's broken and do something about it. The players know. The media knows. The fans have known for weeks. And still we wait. The irony? This isn't even a quarterback controversy in the classic sense. Gabriel hasn't played well enough to earn controversy. This is a crisis, a trust issue, a pressure point that's now defining the Browns season. And every day Sanders doesn't start, the stakes get higher. The expectations get heavier. The spotlight gets hotter. Because now, it's not just about performance. It's about pride. If Sanders finally gets a shot after the team sinks below .500, that's too late. If he steps in after Gabriel gets booed off the field in a must-win game, that's not proactive. That's desperation. But if they start him now, while the season's still in reach, while the players are still invested, while the fans still care, then it's a statement. It says, we see what's happening. And we're not going to let this season waste away while we do nothing. That's what leadership looks like. Right now, Shedeur Sanders represents more than just a change in quarterback. He represents a change in mindset, a willingness to adapt, a step away from stubbornness and toward accountability. And that's the move Stefanski has to make. Not next week. Not if Gabriel collapses again. Now, before it's too late. Because if Sanders is the guy and the team waited too long to play him, that's unforgivable. That's how jobs get lost. That's how trust gets broken beyond repair. The Browns have a choice to make. And the whole league is watching. Will they stick with the past or take a chance on the future? Let us know what you do. Should Stefanski bench Gabriel and roll with Sanders now? Or do you think there's still something left to salvage in the current plan? Drop your take in the comments. Hit like if you're ready for a quarterback change. And subscribe for more brutally honest breakdowns as this drama unfolds. This story isn't done, and the next chapter could be the one that finally defines who the Browns really are.